Good morning, Saddle River Day School. Thank you for this opportunity to kick off your TEDx Youth Talks with a theme of solving for why. So when I thought of this theme, I was like, solving for why? Do I have to do math? Do I have to solve an algebraic equation? Do I have to talk about something scientific? Oh no. And then I said, well, instead, let's solve for why. Why am I here? What is my why? What is my purpose? Now we're getting deep. This is the existential question that has dogged humankind throughout the ages. So how am I going to tackle this in a quick TED Talk? Well, not easily, but I'm going to speak to you from my 66 years of experience on this earth. Your why can be evolving. Your why can change from year to year, from decade to decade. My why is still evolving. Your why can be based on your hobbies, your job, your career, your education, can be influenced by your family, your friends, and by any one of a number of experiences that you're going to have on this journey called life. You're at the stage in life when I bet you are asked several times a week, if not more, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to major in college? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's your career going to be? Oh my, this can be extremely overwhelming. I know it was for me when I was your age. But some of you are very focused. You're going down that path. You have the answers to those questions, which is very impressive to me because I was not in that category. But if you're in that category, I say more power to you. But if you are not in that category, I say it's okay. Things will evolve, and things will come to you that will help you find your why. So I began to find my why through community engagement. And here's a little bit about how that happened. I graduated college with a degree in economics. And as I said, I was kind of on a windy path. I was not on the straight path. I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do even when I graduated college. But I was good at a lot of things. I was good at math, I was good at data analysis, I was great with working with people and on teams. I was competent and confident. So I began to get jobs in financial services industry, primarily working for big banks. And what I learned was working for these large corporations, they often had what's called a corporate social mission, which is an aspect of society that they wanted to help through grants funding and through volunteerism in their employee base. And I thought, wow, this is a cool thing. This is a great thing that these big companies are trying to do. And they were doing this because they wanted goodwill associated with their brand, and they wanted to be a part of their community. It was good for business. Again, I thought this is a good thing. I'm signing up for this. So anytime there is a volunteer effort within a company that I was working for, I raised my hand and participated. So whether it was a hammer in my hand for building a house for Habitat for Humanity or bagging groceries for a food bank, there I was participating with my fellow employees. And I walked away from these experiences with a really good feeling deep down in my soul. I felt jazzed by this. And it was a different feeling that I got from my 9-to-5 job. I wasn't getting that level of satisfaction from my actual job. So I was lucky mid-career to be hired by a large international bank whose corporate social mission was helping the environment. And I was like, wow, this is great. This is totally aligned with my values. And I was really, again, jazzed by their mission, which had nothing to do with my job in commercial banking. But I was really up for helping out with that. And I was lucky to be asked by my regional president, who was new to Rockland County where I was working at the time, and he said, would you find us an organization locally in Rockland County that we can partner with, that we can fund, that we can provide some volunteerism for? that is helping the environment. And I set out to do my research, and I found a small organization called Keep Rockland Beautiful that was organizing community cleanups and educating youth about environmental issues. And I proposed this nonprofit, and my boss said yes. And I said, hooray, go support this organization. So I began to be the liaison between this big corporation and this small grassroots organization that was doing good in the community. And I thought, wow, this is boots on the ground way to think globally and act locally. And I was 100% in. And I started organizing teams of our employees to do these cleanups with Keep Rockland Beautiful every spring. And I'm still involved in this organization to this day, over 20 years later, and I am now the president of the board. And it's been an extremely satisfying experience. And by the way, we've just kicked off our spring cleanups, so if you're interested, come join us on one. They're really a lot of fun. So my entry into community engagement was really through my corporations. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what is in it for you or me when we are volunteers for these community organizations. What's in it for us when we're engaged in our community? Well, one is that we can hone our skills such as teamwork, leadership, negotiation, problem solving. We get exposure to real-world issues, whether it be poverty or homelessness or whatever your organization is working on. It's real-world issues. And there are networking opportunities. You may meet a mentor. You may meet somebody who can help you find a job. And it will also potentially help you solve for your why. It may reach a passion in you and give you a sense of self-worth and value that may be hard to get in a 9-to-5 job. It also is an opportunity for you to raise your hand and have your opinion heard. And I cannot deny that it is a resume builder. When you put community engagement and community activities on your resume for a college or a job, it will be looked upon favorably because it says something about your character. And one benefit I'd like to talk about is what I call the MOI, or Blue Zone benefit. So I learned about this through a yoga teacher who was often quoting paragraphs from this book called The Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. And Dan Buettner was researching 5 communities around the globe that were producing a large number of centenarians, people that were living to the age of 100 and beyond. And he was trying to figure out what is going on in these communities that these people have such longevity. And he started to identify certain factors like diet, like daily exercise, like the climate of where their town or community was. And then he identified another thread that was common among these communities, and that was that they were very engaged in their community in a common purpose. They were working together towards something, and there was a high level of social support. So my theory is that moai, which is the Japanese word for meeting for a common purpose, is another way of solving for why. Because if you get engaged in your community, you may live longer. So what is in it for the organization when they have all these volunteers and people like you and I that are engaged in their community? What do they get out of it? Well, they can leverage your skill set. Say you're good at computer skills or social media or answering the phone or planning events. They will leverage that skill. And they also get an extra smiling face, an extra set of hands, and more brain power looking for them. You also get a deeper reach into the community because as a volunteer, you will naturally start talking about what you're volunteering for with your family, your friends, your peers, your colleagues, and you're spreading the message organically. You're becoming an ambassador for that organization, and that increases their reach into the community and also increases their impact. So let's talk about impact for a minute. There was a December 2025 article published in the Nonprofit Times that talked about the economic powerhouse that nonprofits are and what they contribute to our economy annually. And they contribute about 5% to our GDP, which is our gross domestic product, which is the total sum of all our goods and services in this nation. That's nothing to sneeze at. That totals about $1.5 trillion. So if you're helping one of these nonprofits, you're also making an economic difference in our society. That is very positive. So just as an example, I will share with you Keep Rockland Beautiful's impact, because we try to measure what we're bringing to society. And last year alone, we organized over 3,600 volunteers at over 140 cleanups, and we collected 33.5 tons of debris, trash, and recyclables. And that was a positive impact on the quality of life in Rockland County. We also impact individual lives. And a little story about how we impacted one person's life with Keep Rockland Beautiful was we have all these cleanups going on in the spring, and we often have a lot of students, a lot of youth come because they're trying to check the box for community service. They have to do this for their honor society or for their church or whatever, community service requirements they have for school. And so a young gal shows up. She's in middle school, and she's there with her parents. And she really does not look happy to be there on a Saturday. She's shy, and she's hesitant. She's a little recalcitrant, and, blah, blah, blah. And so we give her supplies, and we tell her to go off to this trail, which is by a stream, and pick up garbage. And there she goes off with her parents. And she comes back an hour and a half later, and there's actually a smile on her face. Her bags are full. Her eyes are engaged. And she starts talking to us about what she found out there. And she was telling us that she realized that if she didn't pick up that trash, that it was going to end up in that stream, which was going to end up in the waterways. And she really got the connection between what she was doing and what we were trying to do as an organization to impact positively our society. She came back the next year, and she brought a few friends with her and did another cleanup and actually left with a smile on her face. The next year, she brought a scout group with her, and they did a cleanup. The next year, she was in high school, and she brought a whole bunch of friends with her. And the next year, she brought a whole Interact club from the high school to do community service. And she was really engaged in her community, just a little different from community service. She wasn't just checking the box anymore. She was really engaged, and she was getting others to participate. And P.S., she ended up majoring in environmental science in college. So there's a way that Keep Rockland Beautiful made an impact on an individual. So what types of organizations are out there that you can volunteer fill? Well, the possibilities are endless. And I encourage you to think about what might speak to you. What are your interests? There are organizations in social services. I mentioned before, poverty, climate change, homelessness, food insecurity. There are arts organizations, museums, botanical gardens, zoos, animal shelters, veterans organizations, sports organizations like Special Olympics. So I encourage you to go out there and find one. So I have this Venn diagram that I've had on my bulletin board for about 10 years. I created it for another talk that I did. And it really is, in a nutshell, my career and community engagement advice to you. And it is, if you can layer what you love doing with what you are good at and what the world needs, that intersection there, that is you on your way to finding your why. And if you can also layer on top of that what you can be paid for, then that intersection is the icing on the cake. And that's what I call, another Japanese word, your ikigai, your reason for being. So, a couple of weeks ago, I had finished my preparation for this talk. I had finished my slides. I had found my final quote, feeling good about all this. And I happened to go to a concert. And at this concert, I saw a woman with a really great t-shirt on. She was wearing this amazing tie-dye t-shirt. And I complimented her on it, and she was like, oh, thank you so much. I actually make these. My husband and I retired, and we started this business, and she gives me her business card, and she's all excited about this, and she goes, I think I found my why. And I was like, whoa, this is really serendipitous that she found her why, and I've been doing this whole little talk about finding your why. So it was a great chat with her. And then she hands me this sticker, which I put up here, which says, we tend to miss our why. And it's the American Sign Language way of saying why. You put your hand to your hand to your head, and then you make the letter Y. So I don't want you to miss your why. And I encourage you to find your why, and maybe some of it through community engagement, because alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much.